The sun poured gently through the tall windows of the old church, casting soft light on rows of white chairs and fresh flowers. Guests murmured quietly, waiting for the music to begin. Everything looked perfect, on the surface. Then, the music started. Camille stepped into view at the end of the aisle. She wore a simple wedding dress. It wasn't glossy or full of sparkle like the others her guests had seen at grand weddings. It was soft, flowing, and clearly handmade. The seams weren't machine perfect. The neckline was unusual. No brand tags, just art stitched with care. Her parents, Lorraine and Mitchell, sat stiffly in the front row. Lorraine leaned toward her husband with a tight smile and whispered, "This is what she chose? It looks like something from a craft fair." Mitchell didn't say much, but he shook his head and looked away, embarrassed. Some guests glanced at each other. One woman in the third row whispered, "Did she make that herself?" Another chuckled, "Not exactly designer." But Camille walked slowly, eyes forward, face calm. She held her bouquet tight, but not to hide, just to keep her focus. Her hands didn't shake. Not today. Her fiancé, Jordan, stood waiting at the altar. His eyes locked onto hers the moment she appeared. He wasn't looking at the dress. He was looking at her. He smiled, wide and full of love, and his eyes began to shine. As she reached him, he took her hand gently. The officiant welcomed everyone. "Dear friends and family, we are gathered." Jordan suddenly lifted his hand. "I'm sorry," he said, turning to the crowd. His voice was clear, steady. "Before we begin our vows, I need to say something. Something important." The room fell silent. Camille looked up at him, surprised. Lorraine's eyebrows raised. A few people leaned in, confused. Jordan took a breath. "You all see the dress Camille is wearing. Some of you may have judged it already. But before I marry her, you need to know the truth behind that dress." Gasps fluttered quietly through the pews. Camille stood frozen, her heart pounding. Jordan looked at her with love. And then he turned back to face the crowd. Camille didn't grow up in a warm home. Her family had money, but there wasn't much love. Her mother, Lorraine, cared deeply about how everything looked. The house, the car, the clothes, and especially what people thought. Her father, Mitchell, was always working or traveling. Even when he was home, he barely spoke to Camille unless it was to correct her or ask about grades. As a little girl, Camille loved to draw. Her favorite thing was sketching dresses. She would sit on her bedroom floor for hours with colored pencils, imagining flowing fabrics and elegant shapes. She once showed her mother a design she was proud of, a soft gown with lace flowers and gentle fold. Lorraine looked at it for a second and handed it back. "That's cute," she said, "but you need to think about a real career. Fashion is fun for rich girls to wear, not make. It's a hobby, not a job." Camille didn't stop sketching. She just stopped showing her drawings. In high school, when kids were deciding on college majors, her parents pushed hard for law. "Lawyers get respect," Mitchell said. "It's stable. You can always do art on the side." But Camille already knew she wouldn't be happy in a courtroom. Behind her parents' backs, she applied to a university that had a strong textile and design program. She got in and was thrilled. When she finally told them, they were furious. "You're throwing your future away," Lorraine had snapped. "We're not paying for some fabric hobby." True to her word, they cut her off. Camille had to work several part-time jobs to stay in school, waitressing, tutoring, cleaning houses. She didn't tell her friends the full story. She just worked hard and stayed quiet. It was during her second year of college that she met Jordan. She had made a few handmade scarves to sell during winter break, hoping to earn enough for books. She set up a small table near a local market. Business was slow, and the wind was cold. Then a man stopped, picked up a scarf, and smiled. "This is beautiful," he said. "Did you make it?" She nodded shyly. "Yes." He didn't just buy one. He asked her how she learned to sew. He stayed and talked. He asked about her dreams. That man was Jordan. From that day, everything changed. He didn't just listen to Camille. He believed in her. He cheered for her smallest wins. When she doubted herself, he reminded her how far she'd come. He loved her art, not in spite of its imperfections, but because of them. They built their life together slowly, piece by piece. No big apartment, no fancy cars, but full of honesty, support, and small joys. When Jordan proposed, Camille said yes without hesitation. Still, part of her heart ached for one thing, her parents' approval. Even after everything, she wanted them at her wedding. She hoped, deep down, they would see how far she'd come. Maybe they'd finally understand her. So, she sent the invitation. And she waited, not for their blessing, but just some kind of sign that they still cared. They accepted, of course. Lorraine wouldn't miss the chance to be seen at a wedding. But Camille could already feel the judgment in her voice during that short phone call. Even so, Camille stayed hopeful. Maybe on that day, in front of everyone, they would see her. Not as the daughter who disappointed them, but as the woman she became on her own. The woman who never gave up on her dream. 3 weeks before the wedding, Camille visited her parents. She brought her sketchbook with her, holding it tight to her chest. After dinner, she sat with her mother in the sunroom, the quietest place in the house. "I want to show you something," Camille said. Lorraine raised an eyebrow, sipping her tea. "Go ahead." Camille opened the sketchbook to a page near the middle, a soft pencil drawing of a long, flowing wedding dress. It wasn't fancy. No heavy jewels or stiff structure. Just a clean design with small hand-stitched details and a gentle line around the waist. "I'm making my dress," Camille said. "This is the design." Lorraine stared at it for a moment, then let out a sharp, cold laugh. "You're joking," she said. "You're actually going to wear that homemade thing to your wedding?" Camille's face flushed. "It's not just homemade. I've been working on it for months. Every stitch will mean something." Lorraine shook her head. "You'll humiliate yourself. And us. What will people say when they see you walk down the aisle looking like—" "You have one chance to get this right, Camille. This is a wedding, not an art project." Mitchell walked in from the next room, overhearing part of the conversation. "What's this?" he asked. "Your daughter is planning to wear a craft project instead of a real wedding dress," Lorraine said, still laughing. "She wants to sew it herself." Mitchell looked at the sketch, then at Camille. "Why not just let us buy you a proper dress? We'll cover it. Something from a real designer." Camille held her ground. "I don't want a designer dress. I want to wear something that feels like me. Something I created." Lorraine crossed her arms. "You'll be the talk of the wedding, and not in a good way." "I'd rather wear a dress I believe in than a costume for your approval," Camille said softly. That ended the conversation. Her parents said nothing else that night. But over the next few days, Camille heard things from cousins, aunts, and even old family friends. "I heard you're doing a kind of craft wedding," one of them said on the phone. "Your mom said it'll be very different." Another cousin messaged her. "Are you really making your own dress?" "Your mom said it's some kind of art school rebellion." Camille sat on her bed, holding her phone tightly. Her hands trembled a little. She hadn't expected support, but she also hadn't expected her parents to start mocking her behind her back. She told Jordan everything. They were sitting on their tiny couch, dinner plates still on their laps. "I thought maybe this time would be different," she said. "That they'd at least try to see me." Jordan set his plate down. "Camille, listen to me. You don't need their validation. You've never needed it. I wanted them to be proud. Just once. They don't get to define what pride is," Jordan said gently. "You're the most hardworking, talented person I know. You've always been an artist. That's what this dress is, a piece of you." Camille leaned into his chest, and he held her tight. That night, she opened her sketchbook again. She flipped past the pages of old designs, old dreams. Then she landed back on the wedding dress. She stared at it for a long time. Then she picked up her pencil and began refining the line. Camille worked on the dress every evening after work, her hands slow and steady. She spread the fabric across their small living room floor, smoothing it out gently. The fabric wasn't expensive, but it felt soft and natural to the touch. She had picked it carefully, not flashy, but beautiful in its own quiet way. Each stitch was placed with care. She didn't rush. She wanted the dress to speak for her heart, her story, her strength. As the days passed, the shape began to form. The bodice fit close but soft. The skirt flowed, not too wide, not too tight. She added hand embroidery around the neckline, tiny patterns that looked like vines and petals. Jordan watched her as she sewed in the late hours. He brought her tea, rubbed her tired shoulders, and told her over and over, "It's going to be stunning, just like you." But outside their apartment, things were different. Camille began to hear more things. Whispers, quiet remarks passed through friends and family. Someone told her that Lorraine had been calling the wedding an ego trip and saying Camille was using it to show off her little hobby. Others heard her mother complain. "She wants attention, not a marriage." Camille's heart sank every time someone brought it up. One night, she stood in the kitchen, hands shaking as she dried a plate. "Maybe we shouldn't have invited them," she said. Jordan looked up from the table. "We still can change that." She shook her head. "If I uninvite them now, I'll look bitter. It'll just feed their story." Jordan walked over and gently took the towel from her hand. "Then don't give them your energy. Let the truth speak for itself. You'll walk down that aisle in something you made with your own hands. That's power they'll never understand." She nodded, but her eyes stayed heavy. As the wedding got closer, old memories began to resurface. She remembered the time she was 9 and had made a dress out of colored paper for her doll. It had taken her hours. When she proudly showed it to her mother, Lorraine had barely looked up from her phone. "That's a mess," she'd said. "You can't just tape junk together and call it fashion." Then she'd thrown the paper dress away. Camille remembered standing in the hallway, blinking back tears. That same feeling was creeping in again now, even as an adult. The week of the wedding came. The final stitches were in. The dress was done. It wasn't perfect, but it was her. On rehearsal day, Camille walked into the venue to practice the ceremony. Lorraine and Mitchell were already there, talking to the wedding planner. Lorraine looked her over and gave a fake smile. "Still planning to wear that little sewing project?" Camille didn't answer. She kept walking, Her mother followed. I just hope you're proud of embarrassing your father. He's barely said a word about this wedding. Camille turned slowly. He's barely said a word to me in 20 years. Lorraine blinked, surprised. But Camille didn't wait for a reply. She walked back to Jordan, holding her head high even though her stomach twisted. That night, in their apartment, Camille sat in silence for a long time. Her dress hung nearby, covered gently in a cloth. Jordan came and sat next to her on the couch. I don't know if I can do this, she said. Her voice cracked. Everyone's going to be watching, judging, laughing. Jordan didn't try to cheer her up with fake words. He just pulled her close and rested his chin on her head. This wedding isn't about them, he said. It's about us, the life we're building, the love we've already fought for. Camille didn't reply, but she leaned into him, letting herself feel safe. The morning of the wedding arrived. Camille stood in the bridal room, slipping into her dress with steady hand. She looked in the mirror. She didn't look like a magazine bride. She didn't look like her mother wanted, but she looked like herself, and she felt beautiful. Guests filled the pews. Soft music played. Whispering began the moment Camille stepped into the aisle. Is that her dress? Someone said quietly. It looks different. Did she make it herself? Camille heard them. Every word. But she kept walking. Her eyes stayed on Jordan. He was waiting at the altar, smiling with tears already in his eyes. She reached him. He took her hand. The officiant welcomed everyone, voice calm and gentle. Dear friends and family. Then Jordan raised his hand. I'm sorry, he said, turning toward the guests. Before we begin our vows, there's something I need to say. The room went still. Camille's heart stopped for a moment. Jordan turned to her, then to the crowd again. I know a lot of you have opinions about this dress. Maybe you've already judged it. But before I marry this woman, you deserve to know the full story behind what she's wearing today. Everyone leaned in. The air felt heavy. Camille looked at him, confused. He smiled softly, reassuring her. And then he began to speak. Jordan took a breath and looked around the room. Everyone was silent, waiting. Before I marry Camille, he said, his voice calm but clear, there's something you all should know about the dress she's wearing. Camille's heart raced. She didn't know what he was going to say. This dress, he continued, is not just a piece of fabric. It's a story, a journey, a dream that started long before today. People in the crowd leaned in. Lorraine narrowed her eyes. Mitchell sat stiff in his seat. Jordan looked at Camille with a soft smile. Camille has been sketching dresses since she was a little girl. I've seen the drawings. Some are years old. When she decided to make her wedding dress, she used one of those childhood sketches as her base. She brought it to life with her own hands. He paused, then looked back at the crowd. But she didn't do it alone. Now whispers started to rise again. A few guests glanced at each other, confused. I wanted her to have the best, Jordan said. Not because I cared about style or trends, but because I wanted the world to see what I've always seen in her, pure talent. So I reached out to someone who would understand what Camille's work truly means. He turned slightly and motioned toward one of the front rows. A woman stood. Elegant, graceful, dressed in a soft gown made of the exact same fabric as Camille's dress. Her silver hair was pulled back, and she wore no flashy jewelry, just confident. Gasps rose in the room. Is that Lydia Monroe? The name passed through the crowd like a wave. Lydia Monroe, the famous fashion designer who had disappeared from the public eye years ago. Known for her bold but timeless pieces, a legend in the fashion world. And now she was standing at Camille's wedding. Jordan continued. A few years ago, when Camille was still finding her path, she helped a stranger on the street. That stranger was sick, struggling, and alone. Camille gave her food, a scarf she had made, and the warmest words anyone had spoken to her in months. Jordan looked toward Lydia. That stranger was Lydia Monroe. The room went dead silent. Lydia stepped forward now, her heels clicking gently against the floor. She stood beside Camille and took her hand. Most people don't know this, Lydia said, her voice smooth and strong. But I disappeared from the fashion world because I was ill. I was tired both in body and soul. I had given everything to an industry that forgot how to care. And then one winter day, a young woman gave me a hand-knit scarf, a sandwich, and a reason to keep going. She turned to Camille, eyes kind. I never forgot you. When Jordan contacted me and showed me your sketches, I cried. Because I remembered that scarf. I remembered your face. And I knew the world needed to see what you could do. Camille was frozen in place, her eyes filled with tears. I didn't design this dress, Lydia continued. Camille did. I only gave her a few notes, small tips, nothing more. She had the vision. She had the heart. I've worked with world-famous designers, but Camille is one of the most naturally gifted artists I've ever met. She looked at the crowd now. Her gaze landed briefly on Lorraine and Mitchell. You all laughed at this dress. You whispered. You mocked a masterpiece. The guests were quiet. Lorraine looked stunned. Her face was pale. Mitchell blinked slowly, like he was trying to catch up. Camille's lips trembled. She didn't know what to say. She turned to Jordan, who took her hand again. You did this, she whispered. He nodded. I just wanted the world to see you the way I do. A round of applause began slowly, then grew louder. Some guests stood. Others wiped away tears. It was not just for Lydia. It was for Camille, for everything she had fought to become. Lorraine looked down. Her perfect posture faltered. Mitchell opened his mouth, then closed it again. They had no words. Camille wiped her eyes and smiled through the tears. After the ceremony ended, people gathered around Camille. Many guests who had whispered earlier now came up to praise her dress, her talent, her courage. Camille smiled, a little overwhelmed but full of pride. Lydia Monroe walked over to her, calm and graceful. She placed a gentle hand on Camille's shoulder. You were brilliant, Lydia said. And I meant every word. Camille blushed. Thank you for everything. Lydia nodded. I want to make you an offer, she said. I've been looking for someone to mentor. Someone with raw, true vision. I want you to design a capsule collection, under your name, with my full support. Camille's eyes widened. Are you serious? As serious as I've ever been, Lydia replied. The world is ready to see what you can do. It's your time. Camille could hardly believe it. This was the kind of opportunity she had once only dreamed about, and now it was being handed to her because someone finally saw her for who she truly was. Just then, Camille noticed her parents standing a short distance away. Lorraine looked like she wanted to come over, but wasn't sure how. Mitchell stood beside her, awkward and quiet. Camille gave Lydia a small nod and walked toward them. Lorraine tried to speak first. Camille, that was unexpected, Mitchell added. The dress, it was impressive. Camille looked at both of them. There was no anger in her voice. No shouting. She was calm, steady. You don't have to say anything, she said. I didn't wear that dress to impress you. I wore it because it's a part of me. Just like designing is a part of me. Her mother looked down, ashamed. Camille continued. All my life, I just wanted you to see me. Not the version you wanted me to be. Just me. Today you did. That's all I ever needed. Her father nodded slowly. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, Camille said gently. But now you do. Then she turned and walked away, her heart feeling lighter than it had in years. Outside, Jordan was waiting near their car, watching her with the same proud eyes he'd had at the altar. She walked straight into his arms. I still can't believe you did all that, she said, holding him tightly. He smiled. I'd do it again. You've always been an artist, Camille. I just helped remind you. They got into the car together. Camille reached over and grabbed his hand, squeezing it gently. Thank you for believing in me, she said, when no one else did. Always, he whispered. As they drove away from the venue, the sky was beginning to glow with soft afternoon light. Camille looked out the window, her heart full. The pain of her past didn't vanish, but it no longer had control over her. Her parents' opinions didn't carry the same weight. Their power over her was gone. She wasn't walking away with revenge in her heart. She was walking away free. Free to be herself. Free to create. Free to love. And finally, free to begin her life on her own terms. Months had passed. Camille stood backstage, holding her breath. Her heart beat fast, but she wasn't nervous, she was ready. In front of her, models lined up, each one wearing a piece from her first collection. Soft lights, warm colors, bold stitches. Her name was printed on every tag, Camille Lane. The show was about to begin, her very first fashion show. Her label was growing faster than she imagined. Orders had started pouring in after the wedding video went viral. People wanted more of her designs, her story, her strength. Behind her, a young designer tapped her shoulder. Thank you, she said shyly. You made me believe I could do this too, even if I don't come from money, even if I don't have connections. Camille smiled. You don't need permission to create. You just need to begin. The lights dimmed. Music started. The first model stepped onto the runway. Camille peeked through the curtain. In the front row sat Jordan, proud and glowing, just like on their wedding day. Beside him, Lydia Monroe gave a slow, approving nod. No parents. Just love. Just truth. Just the people who chose her, not for how she looked or what she could offer, but for who she truly was. As the show continued, the crowd clapped and cheered. Camille closed her eyes for a second, and in her mind, her voice whispered. They laughed at what they didn't understand, but I never dressed to impress them. I dressed to become myself. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If Camille's journey moved you, from being laughed at to shining on the runway, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment with your favorite moment. And of course, subscribe for more emotional, drama-packed stories just like this. See you in the next one. Bye for now.